I'm Helen Lee from InterVarsity Press. I'm one of the producers of The Disruptors, and I'd like to welcome you to this sneak peek at Season 5, which releases on October 16th. In this preview, you'll hear from our outgoing host, Nancy Wang Yuen, as she hands the baton off to our newest host, Kaitlyn Schiess. Hope you enjoy Season 5 and make sure to tune in on October 16th.
Wow, it's amazing to be back with the Disruptors family. I am excited for Kaitlyn to take over. I think when I was asked to do this, I thought, really? Me as a podcast host? First of all, because I didn't listen to that many podcasts. And then two, a Christian podcast, which when I was at my previous university, always felt like I wasn't the right kind of Christian for Christian audiences. And I felt like God came to me and in a very supernatural way to assure me that this was where I was supposed to be. So I'm hoping for the same for Kaitlyn, that as she takes over, that she will have a supernatural as well as just a really awesome time being able to host this amazing podcast. So Kaitlyn.
Thanks, Nancy. I so appreciate that. I've enjoyed the Disruptors for many seasons, and I enjoyed our conversation last season. I am curious, do you have any advice for me?
I got a lot of advice, and I didn't take any of it. I had advice to explain everything, and I didn't want to explain everything. I wanted to just kind of have an interesting conversation that I felt interested in. I guess that was my approach was, am I interested in what we're saying? And I wanted to find out as much as I could about my guest. I really didn't want it to be about me. And Kaitlyn, I remember when I had the conversation with you, I felt very inspired by you because I thought you were someone who is a young Christian who could be the future of our faith, at least in the United States, or represent that. And I had hope that we wouldn't go down the same line of scary, judgmental, hateful kind of cultural movement that I've seen evangelicalism move towards. And I felt like you were a breath of fresh air and gave me hope that the future wouldn't be as bleak as what I've experienced.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Nancy. Thank you. That's really, I feel like in the few conversations that we have already recorded, I have been wanting to hear hope from people and have been encouraged by people who both are critical of evangelicalism's history, especially as it regards its political activism, but want to lament that and then move towards some constructive vision for what faithful life in the world looks like, and also keep pointing me back at least to examples that might be surprising. Like we had a conversation about how activists in the civil rights movement were able to continue the work that they were doing because of the spiritual resources available to them. And it was that kind of conversation that I thought, that's helpful in terms of critiquing the failures of the evangelical movement, but it's also constructive in the sense of what does it look like for us to do this faithfully? And I feel like people are hungry for resources to do it well. They've seen how to do it poorly. They're just not sure what it looks like to do it well in the future.
I love that. Exactly. That's what I hoped, but I think that you're going to be able to take it to the next level, because I don't think that I was coming from a perspective of, a little bit of cynicism and just really wanting hope, but didn't know how to necessarily find it. And a lot of my guests were also on that path, right? So I hope that you'll be able to find some experts to really help the everyday average Christian like myself to just be able to, how to keep faith in a time where faith is challenging. So with the Disruptors, each host brought their own kind of special spin and the types of guests that they had. I know I invited most of my friends and even people that I barely knew, but I really, really wanted. And so what can we expect with season 5 with you, Kaitlyn? I'm just so excited to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, when we first started talking about this upcoming season in particular, we were both interested in the political question, both because the 2024 election season is like rapidly barreling towards us. And that's my area of talking about faith and political life. But what we didn't want to do was just say, okay, let's have the conversations that people sort of expect about, you know, the candidates or the policies that are kind of the hot button issues of right now. Really informed by the past seasons of the Disruptors, we wanted to say, what are deeper issues at play here? What are deeper dynamics that are causing the kind of surface issues of our political dysfunction? And how can we maybe peel back some layers to see what's underneath? And in the course of that conversation, we started thinking about this theme of disrupting the church, disrupting the world, the culture. And we thought, well, what is disruptive about this conversation? And we thought, well, we also need to think about disrupting ourselves and moving the focus a little bit towards, well, how do we become the kind of people who can do that work in the world or in the church well? How do we maintain the work we're doing without losing our souls? How do we build good and faithful relationships to sustain us? What kind of spiritual practices can help us? And so I think in many ways, people will see continuity of there's a real interest in what does faith mean for our life in the world? How does the church encourage more faithful expressions in public life? But this season, I think we're kind of trying to look a little bit more inward and say what is required of us as people to do this work well and faithfully. And the examples that we've gone to in terms of guests are people who both, I think, have their own experiences of spiritual formation that have made them into the kind of people who can do really faithful work in the world. And then also have a lot of good wisdom for us of like, here are some habits to think about, or here are some historical examples of Christian faithfulness to meditate on, or here are some examples to really see as warnings of ways that we could go wrong in our spiritual formation and in our life together in community. And so that might be a little bit new, but in many ways it's not. I think the past seasons have always kind of looked at guests as whole people and their spiritual formation towards their work. And this season, I think we just really want to focus on those stories of spiritual formation and the ways that they might instruct us today, especially in the chaos of a year like 2024.
I love that. And just, I got chills thinking that, you know, the Holy Spirit is leading and guiding the Disruptors from different hosts and different seasons, and that thematically there's going to be continuity no matter what. And thinking that, you know, that started with kind of a focus on theology, to me doing sociology, and now to you doing spiritual formation as well as assessment of the intersection of politics and spirituality, Christianity, faith. It's very cool. I think we're gonna cover everything by the time this podcast will make its way into history. We would have covered the entire kingdom.